began a campaign to alter that perception and included the following lines in their handbills. And you can see it up at the top under Family Concert. When foreigners approach your shores, you welcome them with open doors. Now we have come to seek our lot. Shall native talent be forgot? The trio set out to demonstrate that they are totally respectable in their lifestyle and very much connected to the ears, hearts, and minds of American audiences through their song. They were often complimented on their talent and equally often disappointed by the relatively few people attending their concerts, but they made enough profit to keep pursuing their dream. After the New Hampshire tour, they returned to Lynn and brought their younger sister, 11-year-old Abby, with them. In early 1842, a concert that included her was held in Lyceum Hall. It didn't take the brothers very long to realize that Abby was the missing component, with her mature stage presence and remarkable voice. The audience loved her. The concert was a great success, and the quartet was born. The quartet planned a tour that would take them along the East Coast from Lynn, Massachusetts to Kennebunk, Maine, beginning in mid-January 1842. In preparations for their travels, a carryall and 2 horses were purchased. Violins were hung inside, and Ace's bass viol was tied to the top. The 4 singers rode inside, with the brothers taking turns driving. On this first tour, the quartet performed about 20 concerts, including 2 in Portsmouth. They arrived back in Lynn at the end of February. Now, this poster is from one of the Portsmouth concerts, and they made a point to say they were natives of New Hampshire. They had affordable ticket prices. They offered a full refund, and they also talked about their tricky violin playing. 3 brothers playing 2 instruments, and all of the brothers playing their instruments with their feet. And the next slide, these are from newspaper clippings and reviews about the playing with the feet. The playing of the violins and violoncello with the feet is astonishing to all. The way all 3 of the brothers play on 2 instruments, the violin and violoncello, at the same time is a caution to the fraternity of fiddlers. Number 1 holds and fingers the violoncello, while number 2 bows it. Number 2 also holding and fingering a violin for number 3 to bow. Give us a Yankee yet. That was in the Boston Evening Transcript in 1842. In June of 1842, Nathaniel P. Rogers, editor of the Herald of Freedom, New Hampshire's anti-slavery newspaper, attended a Hutchinson family concert in Concord. He was a musician himself and recognized that the singers would be of benefit to the New England Anti-Slavery Society. In a departure from his usual writings, he published several articles about the talent of the singers and suggested that they include anti-slavery songs in their concerts. Even though the entire family developed a lasting friendship with Rogers, they didn't follow his advice at that time. A family journal entitled Aeolian Vocalist Memorandum began on July 12, 1842, the first day of their second tour as a quartet. Each member of the quartet added entries, but Asa was the most faithful and recorded the minutiae of their travels. His entries tell of the difficulties of their journeys, the success and failure of concerts, how much money was earned and paid out, what type of food they ate, what type of illnesses they suffered, and that they were often homesick. And first, the very first line at the top of the handwritten on the right-hand side said, "I am in where, I am homesick." And it was written by Judson on July 12th, the same day that they set out on their trip. He also included descriptions of the people and lodgings they encountered. The journal is a truly unique record of 19th century American musical history. Tours were taken in the winter and summer when there was little farm work to be done. The quartet always returned to help with planting, farm maintenance, and harvesting. When planning a tour, handbills announcing concerts were sent ahead to acquaintances and postmasters in the hope that they would be posted. The singers soon realized that they needed to do a little on-the-spot advertising since the handbills were not always posted. In order to draw attention to themselves, they began singing as they rode into a town. And this was a really clever way to announce themselves and to showcase their talent. Traveling was often dangerous, and the quartet was on the road day and night, and in every sort of weather. A particularly frightening incident happened late one night on a poorly maintained road while the singers were traveling between concert locations. Judson was driving the carry-on when the horses suddenly stopped and refused to move. Rather than urge them on, he jumped out to investigate. He discovered that the horses had stopped at the very edge of a precipice, thereby preventing the singers from being injured or possibly killed. Another accident happened when the singers were traveling with a group to an anti-slavery meeting and about to cross the Merrimack River. The horse drawing one of the sleighs became skittish. The occupants were all tossed out, and the sleigh flipped over and came to rest on top of Abby. Fortunately, no one was hurt, the sleigh was righted, and the group continued on to the meeting. As recorded in the Aeolian Vocalist Memorandum, the quartet's second tour began on July 12, 1842. This time the singers traveled through northern New Hampshire, Vermont, and into Albany, where an uncle, Nathaniel Levitt, and his family resided. Again, they were disappointed that audiences were small, even though their singing was well received. They arrived in Albany with dimmed hopes of a musical career. They remained there for several weeks, visited with their relatives, and continued to give concerts in the area. But by mid-August, they were preparing to return home in discouragement. And on June 14th, Judson wrote this as part of his journal entry. John, Asa, Abby are now in bed, and I am sitting here writing. We have now come to this. We have been singing 5 weeks, and our money is reduced to nothing. We have not enough to pay our bills. Judge how I feel, ye who read this. 200 miles from home, no money but 42 cents. Expenses $5 a day. Oh, I cannot write anymore, so I will go to bed. And then just 9 days later, on August 23rd, while plans to return home were being made, a life-changing event happened. Luke Newland owned a music store in Albany. He had attended several of their concerts and was quite impressed. He came to their lodgings and offered them $100 to stay a few more days while he planned a concert for them, and of course they agreed. Prior to the concert, Luke arranged for the quartet to sing in several church choirs. He also took them to the homes of leading citizens to prove that they were very respectable and to let them showcase their talent. He published this article signed by local businessmen, saying that Albany had not been very welcoming to the singers, and a concert would be held at the Albany Female Academy so the people of Albany could make amends. Newland's efforts and guidance proved to be a rousing success. To the singers' delight, between 400 and 500 people attended the concert. Newland gave them very good advice about planning future concerts. He also may have been the first to suggest calling themselves the Hutchinson family singers. Other suggestions he offered were that they give up the tricky violin playing, that they concentrate on singing well and using their instruments to accompany their singing. He also may have recommended that they perform without holding sheet music. Needless to say, they followed his advice beginning immediately on the journey home. Uncle Levitt acted as their agent and traveled ahead of them to prepare concert advertisements, arrange for them to sing in concerts, secure lodgings, and suitable venues. Several concerts were held across Massachusetts with more success than failure. The quartet's fame skyrocketed during 1843. There were several reasons for their popularity. They were attractive, talented, respectable, and accessible. They could relate to their audience in language, lifestyle, and concerns of the day. Their concerts were presented with simplicity and with a great variety of tunes. They practiced continually, striving for perfection in harmony and clear diction. They learned each other's parts and were so close in harmony that it was nearly impossible to tell who was singing which part. Every word was clearly sung and understood. They sang for multiple causes, but only those they believed in and espoused in their personal lives, and they were never singers for hire. They firmly believed that everybody should be able to enjoy the concerts and deliberately kept the ticket prices low. And best of all, they did offer a money-back guarantee. And my anecdote about that is there was one concert where a man came in and he said, "I've never paid 50 cents for a ticket." So they said 25 cents will be all right. So he came in and enjoyed the concert so much that at the end he returned and paid the rest of the ticket price, 55 cents. And he said, "I do not want to cheat the singers." Each member of the quartet had a special talent. Judson sang tenor and was a virtuoso on the violin. He wrote very clever lyrics and was well loved for his sense of humor. During one concert, the floor suddenly gave way beneath him, and he ended up with only his head, shoulders, and violin sticking out of the hole. He continued to sing and play so well that the audience thought the collapse was part of the program. Abby was known for her angelic contralto voice and mesmerizing stage presence. John sang tenor and falsetto and was very dramatic. During his rendition of The Maniac, he became a vacant-eyed, wild-haired prisoner, declaring, "No, he was not mad." Asa sang bass and could produce incredibly realistic sound effects. During one concert, the sound effect of a fire engine coming down the road was so realistic, the audience began to panic and run for the doors. Music critics would continually try to find the right words to describe the singers. Most often, the adjectives used were indescribable, sublime, and sweet. In fact, many critics ended up telling their readers, "Go to the concert and see for yourself, because we can't find the words." And descriptions of this nature followed them throughout their career. As they became more and more popular, concert halls that were built for thousands were often filled to overflowing. One drawback, go back, Marcia. One drawback to being so popular in those days was the lack of good likenesses. They crossed paths with other singers, and one in particular gave them cause for concern. The Baker family is said to have gone into towns ahead of the Hutchinsons and posed as them. And you can see in the two handbills the Baker's obvious attempt to try to resemble the Hutchinsons. Now you can go forward. Now, do you see something off about this close-up? And I will tell you, this handbill is bound into the middle of a very thick Hutchinson songbook. The book is part of the Milford Historical Society's collection, and it is open to this page, in case you want to take a look at it sometime. Okay, the Old Granite State was initially composed by Jesse Jr. Marcia? The Old Granite State was initially composed by Jesse Jr. as a way to tell audiences who they were. It was sung at the close of every concert. The words were set to a second Advent tune, The Old Churchyard. The harmony was simple, the rhythm upbeat, and the melody catchy. The lyrics introduced the singers and every member of the family and described life on the farm. As time went on, many verses were added to express the singers' commitment to the individual causes they sang for. The song became so popular, it was suggested as the national anthem. And now we'll invite John to sing a few verses of the Old Granite State.
from the mountains, we have come from the mountains, we have come from the mountains of the old granite state. We're a band of brothers, we're a band of brothers, we're a band of brothers, and we live among the hills with the band of music, with the band of music, with the band of music. We are passing round the world. We have 8 other brothers, and of sisters just another, besides our father and our mother. In the old granite state, with our present number, with our present number, with our present number, there are 15 in the tribe. 13 sons and daughters, 13 sons and daughters, 13 sons and daughters, and their history we bring. Though we're neither politicians, lawyers, parsons, nor physicians, yet define we our positions in the old world and the new. Liberty is our motto, liberty is our motto, equal liberty is our motto. In the old granite state, we despise oppression, we despise oppression, we despise oppression, and we cannot be enslaved. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah!
Thank you, John. It's always a treat to hear you sing. While the quartet was gaining popularity through their family concerts during the late fall and winter of 1842, Nathaniel Rogers, publisher of the Herald of Freedom, continued to advocate for them to write anti-slavery songs and become involved in the anti-slavery movement. He helped, Marcia? He helped make the arrangements that provided their second life-changing. No, go back, Marcia. Sorry. Never mind. I thought there was a picture of Nathaniel Rogers there. I'm sorry. I'll just talk instead. Nathaniel Rogers continued to advocate for them to write anti-slavery songs and become involved in the anti-slavery movement. He helped make arrangements for them to sing at the New England Anti-Slavery Society's 3-day annual meeting held in Faneuil Hall on January 25th, 26th, and 27th in 1843. And this was their second life-changing event. They sang all 3 days, and word of their talent spread rapidly. Attendance increased significantly each day. Nathaniel Rogers published the following observations in the Herald of Freedom. I never saw such effect on human assemblies as their appeals produced. The Hutchinsons made the thousands of Faneuil Hall spring to their feet simultaneously, as if in dance, and echo the anti-slavery appeal with a cheering that almost moved the old revolutionists from their stations on the wall. And slavery would have died of that music. After their success at the anti-slavery meeting, the quartet appeared at meetings throughout the North for the rest of the 1840s. History scholars credit them with effectively spreading the word of abolitionism through song to more people than even the most eloquent speakers could have done. It's estimated their message was heard by hundreds of thousands of people. Numerous articles were published describing the effect the quartet could have on an anti-slavery audience. The Hutchinsons would open the meetings with songs and then sit and listen to the speakers with everybody else. If there was a threat of a mob or hecklers tried to disrupt the speakers, the quartet would stand and begin to sing. They were not shy about making eye contact with the hecklers and singing directly to them. Their voices and obvious sincerity usually had the ability to calm the atmosphere and restore peace. People who were either ambivalent or pro-slavery often became abolitionists on the spot. When they joined the anti-slavery movement, they were already friends with Frederick Douglass, an eloquent abolitionist speaker and fugitive slave. He was a frequent guest at the North River Road home, along with some of the most famous and infamous abolitionists of the day. As they became more involved with the movement, the Hutchinsons counted among their friends and acquaintances Charles Redmond, Abby and Stephen Foster, Parker Pillsbury, William Lloyd Garrison, Robert Purvis, Susan B. Anthony, Lydia Maria Child, Lucretia and James Mott, and countless others dedicated to the betterment of humanity. Throughout 1843, the quartet continued to give family concerts and to sing at anti-slavery meetings. As the new year of 1844 began, many people, including the Hutchinsons, became concerned that while they sang the anti-slavery message, while they sang for many causes such as temperance, equality for all, and health reform, the anti-slavery message was not included in the family concerts. Were they really committed to the cause and doing enough? The family consensus was to do more. ACE's journal entry of April 13, 1844 ends with, "Anti-slavery is now our theme." Get off the track. Written by Jesse Hutchinson Jr. in 1844 and set to the tune of Old Man Tucker, Get Off the Track quickly became their most popular anti-slavery song and was sung during family concerts and at anti-slavery meetings. And I'll ask John to sing a few verses of this.
Emancipation rides majestic through our nation, bearing on its train the story, liberty, our nation's glory. Roll it along, roll it along, roll it along through the nation, freedom's car, emancipation. Roll it along, roll it along, roll it along through the nation, freedom's car, emancipation. All true friends of emancipation, haste to freedom's railway station. Quick into the cars, get seated, all is ready and completed. Put on the steam, put on the steam, put on the steam. All are crying and the liberty flags are flying. Put on the steam, put on the steam, put on the steam. All are crying and the liberty flags are flying. Hear the mighty car wheels humming, now look out, the engine's coming. Church and statesmen, hear the thunder, clear the track, or you'll fall under. Get off the track, get off the track, get off the track. All are singing while the Liberty Bell is ringing. Get off the track, get off the track, get off the track. All are singing while the Liberty Bell is ringing.
The song was also the cause of many threats of violence towards the singers, should they dare include it in their family concerts. Many of these threats were published in northern newspapers. At no time did the quartet fold under such pressure. In fact, their bravery and commitment to the cause encouraged many more people to become abolitionists. When told to quit such nonsense, they replied, "If we can't sing the truth, we can't sing at all." When told it would ruin them, they responded, "Then we will go home and dig potatoes." In a nose-thumbing gesture to those who would threaten violence, Jesse Jr. created a verse to be added to the old granite state.
Party threats are not alarming, for when music ceases charming, we can earn our bread by farming in the old granite state.
I'm just going to add something here. I keep mentioning Jesse Jr., and for those of you who are not familiar, he was an older brother. He was a very clever lyrics writer. He managed them for quite a while and did write some of, and maybe compose, I'm not sure, but wrote the lyrics to some of their most popular songs. So he was very much in their lives for many, many years. The quartet's popularity grew at an astonishing rate from 1843 to 1844. The number of people attending the family concerts continued to grow, and as a result, the singers were becoming very wealthy. As mentioned earlier, Asa kept detailed records early in their touring days, but as time passed, the records became more of a report of profits. In one entry, Asa mentions that they had $874 in their hotel room. Does anybody care to take a guess at what that would be, the spending power today? Okay, you can let them know, Marcia. And that was calculated on the 3rd of June. Might be a little more right there. But. And to their credit, the singers always shared the profits with the family in Milford. In 1845, in August, the quartet and Brother Jesse Jr. received an offer they could not refuse. Frederick Douglass and James Buffum, both of Lynn, Massachusetts, were sailing to England to begin a lecture tour and to perhaps save Douglass's life. The narrative of his enslavement had just been published. Given the fact that Douglass was still a fugitive slave, his friends encouraged him to leave the country to avoid capture and a possible return to slavery. His traveling companion, James Buffum, was an ardent abolitionist and the future mayor of Lynn. I couldn't find a young picture of him, but I'm assuming he was in his early 30s then. They invited the Hutchinsons to sail with them. The singers were already thinking of going abroad to try their luck touring, so the invitation was timely. In fact, it was so timely that within a week of the invitation, they were all on board the Cambria and sailing for England. Although Buffum and Douglass had paid for first-class cabins, Douglass was forced to sail in steerage and was only allowed to walk on deck when accompanied by a white person. Buffum gave up the first-class cabin and stayed in steerage with him. The Hutchinsons were always happy to keep Douglass company on deck. During their walks, people were anxious to speak with Douglass about slavery. Captain Judkins gave permission for him to speak on deck the night before arriving in Liverpool. As soon as he began speaking, heckling began with shouts of "liar" from a man named Hazard, who actually lived in Connecticut. Several Southern slave owners were on the board and were incensed that Douglass was allowed to speak, and threatened, and I'm quoting, to throw the damn nigger overboard. They also expressed it that if he were their slave, they would use him up. The Hutchinsons did their best to calm this atmosphere with song, but the riot only ended when the captain came on deck with leg irons and threatened to lock the hecklers in them. Fortunately, there were no tragic deaths, and the ship arrived safely in Liverpool the following day. After arriving, the Hutchinsons remained in Liverpool to plan concerts. Douglass and Buffum went to Ireland to begin their lecture tour. It was rough going for these foreign singers at first, but with their usual determination, they worked hard for acceptance. As word of their unaffected stage presence and unmatched talents spread, concerts began to fill. They were befriended by many United Kingdom luminaries, including abolitionist George Thompson, poet and novelist Harriet Martineau, and author Charles Dickens. Throughout the year, the quartet traveled from northern England to Ireland, back to England and Scotland, giving concerts everywhere. Their biggest challenge was to perform in London, where concert attendees were used to more polished entertainers. Once again, the beauty of their voices and their unaffected stage presence won them acceptance. By the time they returned home in July of 1846, they had achieved the same level of popularity in the UK as they had in the States. This illustration depicts a concert given on a very hot day in Grasmere, Scotland, shortly before their departure. There were so many people hoping to attend the concert that it wasn't possible for them to all fit in the building. In an effort to accommodate as many as possible, the quartet held the concert outside. After nearly a year of traveling in foreign countries, attending meetings and giving concerts, it's easy to assume they were exhausted. In the last journal entry for that period of time, Asa wrote, "Hutchinson's in Scotland, awful hot, going to bed." Signed, Asa B.H. While the quartet was abroad, different members of the Hutchinson family performed in the States and called themselves the home branch. They kept the name Hutchinson alive and were well received, but none achieved the same level of success as Judson, Abby, John, and Asa. After returning home, the quartet became even more popular and more determined to sing against slavery. Threats against them were constant, but so was the admiration of the majority of the citizens in the northern states. So these two articles are from a concert, at least one of them is from a concert in New York, and the other was a different concert, and I'm not sure what town it was held in. But they describe both the interest in the Hutchinsons and how things were handled during concerts. The night was the worst of the season, the streets being almost impassable from splosh and rain pouring in torrents. I went to the tabernacle with the expectation that, as a matter of course, the concert would be postponed. What was my surprise to find nearly 2,000 people assembled, filling almost every eligible seat in the spacious building. This is the highest compliment which these minstrels have ever received in this city. It was a triumph over the elements of which they may well be proud. They never sang better than on this occasion, and the enthusiasm of the audience rose to such a pitch that several hearty cheers were given at the close amid waving of hats and handkerchiefs. The effects of their visit on the anti-slavery cause were palpable. Multitudes who never listened to an anti-slavery lecture have had their attention aroused to the wrongs of the slave by the soul-moving strains of these simple-hearted minstrels. They are entitled to our respect for persisting in their course in spite of the attacks of their enemies and the advice of timid friends. The liberty of singing the truth is as well worth contending for as the liberty to speak it, and nobly has the right been vindicated. And just on the right, that short article includes these sentences. Some few undertook to hiss them when they sung anti-slavery pieces, but it was overpowered by much louder applause. They cannot be hissed into silence on the subject. And these next articles are from Philadelphia, shortly after these New York articles. On the left is an article deriding the mayor of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, for being a coward and forbidding the Hutchinsons to hold more concerts after 6 or 7 of the city's most respected and wealthy African Americans had attended a concert. The mayor felt that the public should have been warned in advance of a mixed-race audience. As a matter of course, the Hutchinsons refused to sing anywhere that a mixed-race audience was prohibited. And the article on the right is their response and saying that there was no stipulation in the contract about mixed-race audiences, but since they would not sing where they were prohibited, and the concert was canceled, that they would return ticket money to people deprived of their concert. And what did Ace's journal entry have to say? City of brotherly love? Nonsense.
Yeah.
This is a photo of the Hutchinson family singers taken in 1844. Left to right, Judson, Abby, John, and Asa. And they usually did stand on stage this way, so that's why, everything I say takes the names in that order. There may be other photographs of the quartet, but I have never been able to find one, so we are very lucky that this one exists. The Hutchinsons dominated the American music scene from 1843 to 1849, when Abby married Ludlow Patton and retired from touring. The brothers continued as a trio, but were less successful without Abby. She would join them occasionally, but not regularly, and not on tour. Eventually, the trio disbanded, and the men joined with their spouses and children to form individual singing groups called tribes. Another incredible fact about these singers is that each married a fine singer, and all of their children had excellent voices. The Hutchinsons in all their configurations performed throughout the country for most of the 19th century and are estimated to have given nearly 12,000 concerts. To the credit, the Hutchinsons were quick to realize how effective having their music published and available for sale could be. Sheet music for concert numbers was available in stores and at the concert venue, thus ensuring that the melodies would continue to be sung in homes long after a concert was finished. Fortunately, much of this original sheet music exists today. Music scholars credit the quartet with changing the musical culture of our country by crafting a uniquely American style of music, making public and protest singing acceptable, and creating a concert presentation style that performers followed well into the 20th century. History scholars credit them with spreading the message of abolition to hundreds of thousands of Americans. The citizens of Milford should be very proud of these forward-thinking, daring, and talented singers and not let their legacy disappear. So that's what I have to say, and I'm going to invite John to sing our closing song if you would like to, and then we will turn the program over to Marcia after that.
Years hence, what a change will be made in politics, morals, religion, and trade, in statesmen who wrangle or ride on the fence. These things will be altered 100 years hence, 100 years hence. Our laws then will be non-compulsory rules, our prisons converted to national schools. The pleasure of sinning, 'tis all a pretense, and the people will see it 100 years hence, 100 years hence. Lying, cheating, and fraud will be laid on the shelf. Men will neither get drunk nor be bound up in self. To care for each other, 'tis just common sense, as Christian folk ought to 100 years hence, 100 years hence. Then woman, man's partner, man's equal shall stand, while beauty and harmony govern the land. To think for oneself it will be no offense. The world will be thinking 100 years hence, 100 years hence. Oppression and war will be heard of no more, nor the blood of a slave leave its print on our shore. Conventions will then be a useless expense, for we'll all go free suffrage 100 years hence, 100 years hence. Instead of speech making to satisfy wrong, all will join the glad chorus to sing freedom's song. The joy of one's partner will be recompensed, for sisters and brothers 100 years hence, 100 years hence. Thank you. 100 years hence, words by the suffragist Francis Dana Gage, and music by the Hutchinsons. And Marcia, I think you're up. Oh, you're up.
So, having listened to Charlie, you can probably understand the enthusiasm I had to get involved in this. So in 2019, we held a meeting at Milford's Town Hall to bring knowledge of the singers to the attendees and hopefully attract some interest in joining our effort to build a memorial. And the Hutchinson Family Singers Memorial Project was formed. Toward this goal, we have invested thousands of volunteer hours, beginning with approaching the town for their approval, securing a location for the memorial, finding a sculptor for the design, printing a brochure, creating a website, and writing a book. We have created a program with a slideshow, participated in town events to promote this project, held an open house at the Hutchinson homestead with over 300 attendees. During this time, we learned that the cost of our initial design was far too ambitious. Therefore, we have set a cost of $150,000, and the designer, sculptor John Weidman, has given us a second design at that price. So this is the location.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. This is the second design. In the brochure, it shows the original one. This one is going to be quite nice. It'll be Milford granite, and the plaques will all be bronze plaques secured into the granite. And at the bottom, it will indicate thanking our donors. So we have some of our books here if anyone is interested in learning more about them, and the price is $20. So we're welcome to any questions, comments you want. No? Thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate your attention and hope you've enjoyed this program.
So thank you very much, Marcia and Charlie and John, for a very informative and entertaining presentation. And I think that we should all really show how much we appreciated this performance. I think they've laid out a table of refreshments over there. So I think that if there are no questions for Charlie and Marcia, I think that we can partake of them and hang out and talk to Charlie and Marcia.